Hello everyone, I'm Ursula, I make comics, and today I'm going to teach you how to draw kissing. Now I know this is the video everyone wants. I know that everyone just wants to draw their OCs smooching, and I'm with you, I'm one of those people. So I thought today I would go over some kind of primers, some tips, how to break down how to draw a kiss between two characters in case you're very new to it, or it's something you've been struggling with. Hopefully this video will give you a good overview on how to make things look nice and sweet or sensual or whatever kind of kiss you want to draw. So first, I want to start with a quick primer on drawing faces. I think the best way to break it down is that you have the skull, which is a circle. So this is like the main shape of the head, the skull part. And then you have the face, which includes like where the eyes are placed. I always have my little horizontal line for where my eyes go. And I always put a vertical line down the center of the face to figure out where everything is. And it kind of comes out of the skull a little bit because of the jaw. And then the facial structures underneath. You place your ear in center with the line, and then I always like to add a nose, especially when drawing kissing, because that is a very important piece when you're mashing two faces together. And I think when you're drawing kissing, it's good to have a really nice foundation for drawing faces in profile and 3/4 view, and then from the back in a kind of quarter angle as well. Being able to draw them from the top and the bottom is also really helpful, so I'd recommend, just like if this is something you're struggling with, doing lots of practice on drawing heads in perspective in different angles. That will really help you draw better kisses. And if you're really struggling with this, a technique I use a lot, I use it for pretty much everything. If you want to put something in perspective, turn it into a box and then kind of carve your shape out of that box. Just because I find cubes, like rectangular prisms, they're really easy to put into perspective and put along perspective grids. And then from there, you can kind of carve the organic shapes like a human out of it. So when you're drawing your face, I put it into a little rectangle that's a little bit taller than it is wide, but you know, it depends on your style. Some people have very like square heads or circular heads, I guess. Some people draw faces longer. Maybe you have a character with a more squat face where you want it wider. It's whatever you want, but I always put them into a rectangle and I draw my little cross shape for where I want the eyes and nose and mouth to be. And again, you kind of stick the nose on the outside of the rectangle. Just because the face tends to be a little bit flatter. Obviously, the face has dimension and shape, and it depends on your character, your style, and the person you're drawing. But typically, the face is a little bit flatter, and then the nose kind of protrudes. I also find as I kind of build a face, the cheekbones can protrude a little bit, the eye sockets go in a little bit, the lips come out a little bit, and the brow comes out a little bit. But when I'm starting out figuring out my face, I usually draw a rectangle, and I stick a little nose on it. And it can help to think of the nose as a triangle. That works for my style personally. And obviously if you draw like a square or a triangle for the nose, you can always carve into it and make it more rounded. You can make it flatter, you can make it longer, whatever nose you kind of need. And then once I have my rectangle, I tend to kind of carve the rest of the shapes out of it. I'll start by making the rectangle, making sure that's in perspective, and placing like my major facial features, I guess, ears, eyes, nose, where I want my neck to be. And then I kind of carve like the skull shape out of it. You really pull off a lot of the bottom quarter of that rectangle square to really shape out the back of the head. You tend to carve out the bottom near the neck for the jaw. I tend to carve out the forehead quite a bit as it rounds back into the skull. It really depends on what shape your character is, but I tend to just carve the details out of there, and having that rectangular in perspective guide really helps me figure out where to place things. Again, if you're new to this and struggling with it, I would recommend just doing lots of practice of the head in different perspectives. That will really help you kind of get this down really quickly. Now, once you have your face and you're able to draw it in all the different perspectives, you've got your nice little rectangles, you just gotta mash them together. I find the easiest one to start with to kind of learn how to draw kissing is to just do like a profile straight on of two people doing a little peck kiss, you know, like not open mouth, deep French kissing, just like a little peck of the lips, just because it really helps you start to figure out how to draw the faces when they are pressed together, and to really practice the overlap of people's features as they kiss. I think that's the hardest part of drawing kissing, is that the faces and features and body parts overlap. It's the same struggle when you're drawing people like hugging or interactions really close together, touching each other kind of thing. You have to keep in mind all the different body parts overlapping. You have to keep everything in like perspective and like within proportion to each other while they overlap and kind of disappear behind each other. So this really simple, just like peck, sweet kiss is a really great point to start, because you can focus on when two people press their faces together, like, where do their noses go? Typically, you'll have one person's nose go to one side, the other person's nose go to the other side, so one of them will kind of eclipse the other, or their noses can press together. That can be really cute. And that's another kind of interaction where instead of like the body parts tucking behind each other, they can like squish and press against each other. And that's something good to practice. And that tends to happen with the lips. Obviously, sometimes people will tilt their heads a little bit so that their lips kind of lock together. But regardless, the lips will squish. Now, I also find it's really helpful to start in the profile, and then you can practice drawing that kind of kiss from different angles. So a common one that I tend to draw, especially in my comics, is like an over the shoulder where we're looking at someone's face. You can generally see like one side of their face, maybe their eye, if you have the tilt at the right angle, and then the other person will see kind of the back of their head, the back side of their head as they kiss the other person. I personally really like this angle for storytelling because you can focus on one of the character's expressions, and it has some nice dynamicness as compared to like a straight profile view of a kiss. So that one's really great to practice. And then obviously you can draw from different angles. You can try from above, you can try from below, just spin them around. Figure out how to draw it from all the different angles, and that'll really help you kind of figure out more complex kisses, I guess, the like deeper kisses that you may be interested in drawing. And when you start getting into those deeper kisses, it's a lot of the same idea. So you're just drawing your two rectangular prisms, you're mashing them together, but depending on like how deep the kiss is will depend kind of on the tilt of the face. So typically, and again, depends on the people. Typically, when people are doing like a deeper kiss, like a French kiss, both will kind of tilt their heads in opposite ways. So you'll need to tilt those rectangles, and that's why being able to draw them in different perspectives is really important for when you're drawing that deeper kiss. You'll also find that the mouths, when they open, to do the tongue kissing, that you sometimes need to shape the jaw a little bit, especially with the person whose head is kind of tilted away from the camera, and you need to shape their mouths as well. I tend to find it the easiest to have one character who's kind of closer to just like a typical straight-on profile, to have their mouth open, and it creates like a bit of a semicircle kind of cutout in their face. Obviously, it's more detailed than that, depending on the level of detail of your artwork. And then it helps to have the other person's bottom lip, so the person who's tilted their head, pressing their face in, it tends to help to have their bottom lip kind of fill that shape of the first character to create that kind of like locking effect of their mouths being open and pressed together. I find that really works. Some people like to leave a little bit of a gap there so you can see like tongue or teeth or whatever you find exciting. But it really helps to just practice drawing the mouths slotting together at different angles. And to get better at that, my best recommendation is just to draw from reference, to do lots of studies about how like jaws and mouths look at different angles and like open at different amounts. It can be really difficult because lips are very elastic, but the structure underneath our lips is very strict, because, it's all attached to our teeth and skeletons and jaws and stuff. And it creates this this illusion that our mouths can move in ways they can't just because the lips are so mobile. So I'd recommend just doing lots of practice of that, and you will get better with drawing these like deeper French kisses kind of things, you know? It also helps even if you're doing just like a little peck kind of kiss, like just the, you know, lips closed, pressed together. It helps to also define. I struggled with this when I first started because my style was very like, they got no lips. I would rarely draw the lips. The mouth was usually very undefined. So it helps to define in your style having lips show, even if it's just at like certain angles and stuff or certain actions, their lips can then protrude and, you know, behave like actual lips. But when someone is doing like a little peck kiss, I do find that as people like pucker their lips and lean into each other, the lips do extend out a little bit, so it helps to define what that looks like in your style. It's also very helpful for like deepening kisses if you understand how your character's lips behave, how that looks in your style. Experiment with it. When you first start drawing it, it will probably look heckin' weird. It'll be really off-putting and weird. I think drawing any like kissing or character interaction looks really weird when you start, but the more comfortable you get with it, the more you study, the better it will become. And then I guess just some tips to kind of help your kisses look better. It helps to add hands, more character interaction. For example, one I always really like to draw is people like cupping each other's faces. It feels very like intimate and sweet. It can be gentle, it can be passionate. Just hands touching each other's cheeks, maybe like running their fingers through their hair, holding onto their shirts or arms. I find that just really adds a lot of character and emotion. Also focusing on characters' expressions. Typically, people will close their eyes during kisses, but some of my favorites to draw are when there's like a, you know, like a confession of love and then they kiss and one person's like kind of surprised and then they lean into it. Really focusing on the expressions of your characters can really make those kissing interactions really sell and make them really beautiful or cute or sexy or whatever you want for your story, right? And every kind of kiss interaction you draw is different. I would say focus on what you like or what your scene calls for or your illustration calls for. You know, some people like really passionate kisses where people are like biting each other's lips or whatever. Some people like really sweet, gentle kisses. You know, if it's like a princess kissing her knight goodbye before she leaves on an expedition, you know, that might be a little bit more chaste and gentle as compared to like two lovers who are meeting again after a long absence and they just can't keep their hands off each other and it's very passionate and deep. So just think about things you like. How do the characters interact in ways that you like? And if you're really struggling with something, I would grab references from, say, like movies, comics you like, other illustrators you've seen, and just see what they do and kind of break it down into your own style and your own work. And I think that's just like the biggest piece of advice I have for people is just get references, use them a lot, especially when you're learning. Practice, 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 reference, 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 as boring as that can be. But I think that is just like the best way to learn. And then for other little tips, I would say pay a lot of attention to how different pieces of the body kind of squish and contort when people are kissing. So for example, like the noses can kind of get compressed together or compressed against the other person's face kind of thing. You know, lips can distort and squish together. If someone's like holding on to someone's face really passionately, like the cheeks can squish up under their hands kind of thing. And that can add a lot of like passion and realism to the kiss that can make it feel better and look better in your drawing. And if you're really, really struggling, especially with like the overlap and from different perspectives, it's very helpful to draw your characters in different colors. And if you're in a digital program, on different layers, so that it's very easy to kind of adjust your characters around and see what all the different kind of parts of the face are doing, what the different like body parts are doing. That really helped me when I was first starting out drawing characters kissing. Was just I would draw one in blue and one in red and I would kind of figure out where everything is. And then you kind of erase away what you don't want, what won't be shown once you go over and ink your drawing or clean it up. That is so, so helpful when you start. And with body parts, because it's not just the face that is like close and squishing up together when someone is kissing. Obviously, there are more kind of chaste kisses where maybe like just someone's hand is on their shoulder or on their chest. But oftentimes people will be like hugging, embracing, pressed up really close against each other. And if you're struggling with that, I would break all the different body parts into rectangles and then kind of carve away your organic shapes into that. I can definitely do a video about drawing maybe like hugging or like close character interaction to go into that more, but for this video I wanted to focus mostly on how the faces interact in a kiss. I really hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you enjoyed this. If this was helpful, let me know if you have any questions. I can always do a follow-up discussing more things if something was unclear. And good luck out there. Draw lots of smooches and have fun. Make sure to like and subscribe. We put out lots of art and writing advice here. You can join our Discord to meet other artists and writers. Link down below. And also check out our new gaming channel. It is also linked down below. It's called Bones and Ushi, and Bones and I play games and stream and have a good time. Alright, that's all I got. Goodbye!